Good evening, folks. Back for another stream of Dual Destinies. So we're going to start in on the next day of trials. Currently, we're not really sure how things are going to work out. I think our one clue is the fact that one of the witnesses seemed to have seen someone with a knife and a lighter. We don't really know who the lighter belongs to, so hopefully we're going to find something out in the trial today. Hello, Delphine. Go see you sit. There you go. I suppose we should reconvene the trial of... one second. Of Solomon Starbuck or something? There we go.
Objection!
Your Honor, could you please come out from under your bench? There are no more bombs, I promise. Oh, yes, my apologies. Still a little jumpy when it comes to trials involving bombs. I mean, first the courtroom exploded, and then Mr. Tenate self-destructed. I guess that's one way of describing what happened to Tenate. Anyway, it seems that Mr. Justice was seriously wounded by Mr. Tenate's actions, so you, Mr. Wright, will be taking up the defense. Do you have an understanding of what has happened in the trial so far? Yes, Your Honor. The defense is ready. Very well. Is the prosecution also ready? I take it you'd like me to give the opening statement this time. It's like the judge has become a pretty good mind reader. Well, he's certainly seen more than his fair share of colorful prosecutors. You could say he's something of a veteran of sorts. Let's see. In the previous part of this trial, we learned that the victim, Clay Terran, escaped from Launchpad 1 carrying the defendant, Solomon Starbuck. There were explosions on the second floor of the Space Center and on the rocket itself. The two astronauts used the Launchpad 1 corridor to reach the boarding lounge. And how could the victim climb down the ladder if he was carrying the defendant? That was the mystery that needed to be solved. But Mr. Justice proved that the victim was killed in the boarding lounge. Prosecutor Blackwell, were you able to discover any new facts related to this point? Upon further investigation, we discovered an oxygen tank fragment in the lounge. Surprisingly, it would appear that Justice Deneau's argument was correct. So that means the testimonies of the first two people on the scene are suspect. There are two people who claim to be the first one on the scene, but can we truly trust their statements? Let's see, two people were Detective Candace Arm and Yuri Cosmos, right? I think that one of them might have given a false statement to the police. Yes, it's certainly possible. We might have to do a little more digging. And just as our team was about to cross-examine Detective Arm, the courtroom bombing incident occurred, and the trial was put on hold. That accursed fellow, he killed my witness. He killed Detective Arm. He definitely put the kibosh on anyone asking her about what she saw. Exactly. In other words, the question of who killed the victim in the boarding lounge has once again become the main focus of this trial. It's obvious Prosecutor Blackwell still thinks it was Mr. Starbuck. Fulbright said that Blackwell has a thing against the astronaut. Nevertheless, the defense argues there was a third person in the lounge, and that's who killed the victim. Yeah, I mean, hopefully she didn't do it, because if she did, we might never find out.
Objection!
To make such reckless claims in a courtroom takes a bold man, or a stupid one. There's no third person in the boarding lounge. Or have you gone dotty already? Old man. Yeah, I didn't realize how young this guy was. Like, he's only a couple of years older. Well, he's a few years older than Apollo. I forget how old Phoenix is at this point. But I think Phoenix is in his 30s now. So he's not that old. Well, anyways.
Objection!
I'll see who's the dotard after I trounced you with my years of experience, little boy. In any case, Mr. Starbuck claims he saw someone leaving the lounge. Furthermore, a Space Center employee also saw a suspicious figure at the scene. He saw a third person? I see my sister has been running her mouth. That's right, I almost forgot that Aura is Prosecutor Blackwell's sister. No matter, she didn't see this mystery person's face clearly. Therefore, there is no evidence to indicate that this person was not the defendant. Yeah. I guess the possibility that the figure was Mr. Starbuck is still there. In brief, we need to determine if the third person was there or not. To this end, we should hear the testimony of one of the first people on the scene. Director Cosmos, huh? Very well. Bailiff, please bring the witness to the stand. Is he on the scooter, on the stand? I believe I've seen you before in the newspapers. Of course you have. Of course you have. For I'm Yuri Cosmos, director of the Cosmos Space Center, which was of course named after me, Yuri Cosmos. Don't you have anything you wish to ask me? Looks like he's all geared up to do some bragging. 7 years ago, I successfully launched the Hat 1 and... Everyone already knows how brilliant you are. Even I am trying to hold back my tears at seeing such a great man standing before me. So could you please proceed directly to your important testimony? Ha ha ha. I see this fine young lad as a proper appreciation of greatness. And allow me to begin my epochal testimony that will be recorded in the annals of history. That speech of Prosecutor Blackwell's just now sounded more to me like he was poking fun at Director Cosmos. It's probably for the best that it sailed right over the director's head. Now then, Director Cosmos, the condensed version of your illustrious testimony, please. Detective Arm and I rushed towards the building lounge together, or the boarding lounge. Went via the control room and peeked in from there to see what was going on inside. Saw a figure standing in the middle of the lounge and Terran lying on the floor. I hate to say it, but I can only imagine the standing figure must have been Starbuck. I see. So in your testimony you claim you arrived on the scene after the two had escaped from the launch pad to the lounge, and just after the victim had been killed. Oh, the horror, the humanity, but what I said is what I saw, and what I saw is what I said. Courageous action to take in the face of such terrifying explosions, wouldn't you say? To save my men, I went personally into the epicenter of danger, risking my own life for theirs. Ha 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 ha. Well, what do you know? It sounds like the director really cares about his men. Yeah, although it sounds more like he was scared and just had a peek from far away. Is the defense ready to cross-examine the witness? Yes, Your Honor. Director Cosmos' testimony is pretty vague. I'm going to have to press him and draw out more information before I do anything else. Alright.
Hold it!
Where are you coming from? From the 6th floor, making sure any stragglers made their way to the 4th floor. And then we heard about Starbuck and Terran and hurried to 3rd floor lounge. On my galactic scooter here, of course. Why do you keep calling it galactic? Does it have something to do with space? Of course, it's specifically designed to be used on galactic battleships. I see. Then I take it works in 0G too? Sadly, no. With the current state of technology as it is, I'm afraid it would just float about and be galactically useless. Well, that's a galactic bummer. I see. So you rushed to the boarding lounge on your space-age pogo stick. And when you got to the scene, what did you see? I went via the control room and peeked in from there to see what was going on.
Hold it!
Let's see. According to this diagram, you didn't have to go through the control room to get to boarding lounge 1. Looks like you could have gone there from the southern corridor as well. Yes, but in her haste, Detective Arm rushed ahead of me towards the control room. All I could do was merely follow behind her. I see. So I peeked into the boarding lounge from the control room door and... This one seemed the most suspect at the time because everything was supposed to be pitch black. So you couldn't see who that figure was clearly or what they were doing. Sadly, the only thing I could tell was that it was a person standing motionless. The defendant, no doubt, staring aghast at his deed. What other explanation is there? So close, but without evidence, I can't prove that person's the third party. I don't relish in this, and... I hate to say it, but I can only imagine the standing figures.
Holding!
Blackwell also saw a suspicious figure in the lounge, but she gave the statement that it was too dark to see the person's face clearly. Did you see this figure's face clearly? No, not clearly. The lighter they were holding illuminated the air around their feet at the time. But other than that, I could see little else. That's why I could see Taryn, but I couldn't see who the other person was. So for all you know, it might not have been Mr. Starbuck, isn't that correct? I would like to believe that. Starbuck isn't the type of man who's capable of murder.
Objection!
When the witness entered the boarding lounge, there was no third person there. Isn't that correct, Great Space Center Director? Yes, that's right. Only Starbuck and Taryn were there by that time. After we peeked in, the lounge suddenly went dark and the figure vanished. You mean they disappeared? That's odd.
Objection!
The reason the figure appeared to vanish is because it was the defendant. When the witnesses weren't looking, he fell to the floor and feigned unconsciousness.
Holding!
Hold on. Director Cosmos, did you ever take your eyes off of the scene? Just for a brief instant, about as long as it takes for a shooting star to go by. If you took your eyes off the scene, then this third person could have escaped during that time. But what escape route could this person have used? The direction opposite the control room, the southern door to the elevators. There's no security lock on that door, so it would have been possible to escape that way.
Objection!
All things are possible, right, Dono? The real question is, do you have any proof? Well, if we're just talking possibilities, we could each profess whatever we'd like. An inmate who used to be a university professor and lunar researcher used to say that there is a kingdom of little green men who live under the surface of the moon. As long as they don't punish us in the name of said moon for what we've done to it. But I say, where's your proof that this quaint kingdom exists? He's calling your theory a work of fiction, boss. And he's right, I don't have any proof yet. Still, the southern door was a possible escape route. I'd better make a mental note of that. Director Cosmos, may I ask you a question? Why did you look away from the boarding lounge? Haha, there's actually another tale of bravery behind the answer to that. It's when Detective Arms saw the figure and raised her gun. Being a great humanitarian and protector of mankind, I tried to stop her. What? You're saying Detective Arm raised her gun as soon as she saw the figure? I imagine her instincts as a detective told her they were the killer. But I don't know about the kid. Yeah, because they didn't know that there was a killer at that point. Were you able to prevent Detective Arm from firing her gun? I'm afraid I was too late. I was unable to stop her. She identified herself clearly, and then she fired 2 warning shots at the shadowy figure. This information about Detective Arm's actions sounds critically important. Please add it to your testimony. 2 warning shots, eh? I mean, we only saw 1 bullet hole. We only found 1 bullet.
Holding!
Neither of these two shots hit the culprit? That is correct. The detective appears to have missed on purpose. Well, they were warning shots. Something about this that bothers me. So Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots, did she? So the first info was coming. Okay. So we found 1 bullet and 1 bullet hole. But I don't know that they were actually. I don't think they were actually next to each other, which is weird. But I think the bullet hole, the single bullet hole, is the more pertinent piece of information here.
Objection!
You sure you were really paying attention to what Detective Arm was doing? You doubt my words? Words that will someday be written down in history books? Somehow, I don't think that those exact words will ever be written down in any history books. Mr. Wright, could you please explain yourself so that we can all understand? You say that Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots, and yet only 1 bullet hole was ever found at the scene. What? Only 1 bullet hole means the gun was only fired once, and yet Director Cosmos is saying Detective Arm fired 2 shots. No editor would allow such a glaring contradiction into a history book.
Objection!
Unfortunately for you, the witness's words are true. We confirm that 2 shots were fired from Detective Arm's gun.
Objection!
But there was only 1 bullet hole at the scene. Where did the other bullet hole vanish to? Ah. You should know the answer to that already. I should? During the previous trial, a certain oxygen tank was presented as evidence. We already discussed that it was ruptured in the lounge, have we not? Well, it appears that the thing that ruptured it was a bullet. A bullet that was found near the tank, to be precise. This bullet was fired from a .38 caliber gun, the same caliber as the detective's gun. What? I see. The rifling marks also match up. There's no question that the bullet was fired from Detective Arm's gun. Wait, hold on. Okay, so that's a new one. Never mind. So I was like, wait, there's 2 bullets. But they're not talking about this one. Weird 10 caliber. Rifling marks the gun's fingerprints, and examining the rifling marks on the bullet can tell us the gun it was fired from. One of the bullets the detective fired found its way into the holographic image display. The other bullet came to a stop near the victim's oxygen tank. The evidence confirms the director's statement. The detective fired 2 shots. My beautiful contradiction. Gone. All gone. That bullet hole was from a .38 caliber, huh? Better update the record. Very good. Now we know the fate of both the shots Detective Arm fired. Mr. Wright, does that clear up all of your questions? Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots. One hit the holographic display and the other hit the oxygen tank. Does that really clear up everything about what happened at the scene? No, it doesn't. No, Your Honor, it doesn't. Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots from a .38 caliber gun. That doesn't explain the existence of a certain piece of evidence found at the scene. A piece that points to the existence of a 3rd person. Very well, but it won't do to keep us waiting, Mr. Wright. What piece of evidence suggests the possibility of a 3rd person at the scene? I mean, I guess the other bullet?
Take that!
What is this metal pellet supposed to be? Just a little something of great importance we found at the crime scene, Your Honor. You found it where? In a floor gutter at the crime scene. Looks like the police and prosecution both missed it. Furthermore, this is a 10 caliber bullet, making it much smaller than one of Detective Arm's .38 calibers. And that means... Exactly. One more person must have been there in the lounge. A third person who had a gun that could fire 10 caliber bullets. Yerk. And if that's true, it explains why Detective Arm fired warning shots. This third person fired at Detective Arm and cut Director Cosmos with their gun. And in return, the detective fired her warning shots. Isn't that how it really went down, Director Cosmos? Ha ha ha, it looks like you deduced my miraculous tale of survival. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The mystery person fired upon us. What's this now? Wait a minute. You never breathed a word of any of this to me before. Hold on a minute. Something is not quite right with this. Do we not have a map of the... I don't think we have a map of the lounge, which is unfortunate. But I want to say that we found it... Maybe it's over here. Nope. I want to say that the place where we found it was not... It was kind of a perpendicular direction to where the two entrants would have been. I guess we'll find out. All great men have a secret or two, don't you know? Just foolish old geezer. Director Cosmos really has been hiding the presence of a third person all along. Director Cosmos, I want you to testify at the court about what you really saw. You may be a very great man, but in my courtroom you're just another witness. You won't receive special treatment here. Now please give accurate testimony. Detective Arm and I rushed to the control room together. In the lounge, we saw a figure standing in the middle of the room and Taryn on the floor. We're still in the control room to the east when the figure... Yeah, see, that's the problem, is I don't think that bullet was found near that door. I think it was found in that gutter that's in the southeastern part of the room. Given that there was no third person in the lounge when the witness entered it, does this mean the person who fired the gun had to have been the defendant? Not necessarily. It's still possible that it was someone else. Most likely, as soon as Detective Arm and Director Cosmos discovered this person, they escaped through the southern door, the one that didn't have a security lock.
Objection!
Double-edged swords are a tricky lot. Mishandle one and it's you who was cut down. Huh? The reasoning could apply if Spaceboy were the killer as well. Think about it. After being discovered, he could have fired the 10 caliber gun. Detective Arm would have responded by firing 2 warning shots. All he had to do was feign unconsciousness to invent the possibility of a third person.
Objection!
But then a gun would be found at the scene. Yeah. Nor has a gun been found at the crime scene. Its absence can only be explained if there was a third party who took it with them.
Objection!
Call the existence of a trash chute in the boarding lounge. The defendant could have simply thrown the gun down the chute.
Objection!
You can't deny the possibility of a third person leaving with a weapon.
Objection!
It's up to you to prove that possibility, and I trust you haven't forgotten my little piece of decisive evidence. What evidence? Why, the detonator switch that was found in Mr. Starbuck's pocket, naturally. The most compelling evidence of all that tells us he is the culprit. Right. That is a problem. Look how deliciously obvious it is that they've lacked the evidence to rival mine. Wow, he sliced our third-person theory to ribbons and served it to us just like that. Yes, well, I have a question of my own, actually. That bullet from the mysterious figure shot, what did it hit exactly? It hit me. So does that mean you're a ghost? I was wondering when you would realize it, your baldness. Director Cosmos is an authentic, bona fide ghost. He can even pass through walls.
Objection!
Prosecutor Blackwell, shame on you for teasing the nice old gentleman. Your baldness, it was all in jest. Please show yourself again. Are you sure? In that case, how did you manage to survive being shot, Director Cosmos? I'm glad you asked. It was a miracle befitting a great history-making figure such as myself. The bullet hit my glorious Medal of Honor, whereby it ricocheted, thus saving my life. Ah. So, in theory, that's how it ended up in the gutter. Because if it bounced off of, if it ricocheted, then it's possible it could have ended up over there. That's unbelievable. I have to check this out. Oh, wow. Look at that. There's one extra Gyaxa star. The odds are literally astronomical. I guess it really was a miracle. It's beginning to really feel like the Cosmos is watching out for Director Cosmos. Why did you conceal this information, Director Cosmos? A great man such as myself has to hide things on occasion, no matter how much it hurts. It is the plight of the truly great. It may be hard for this generation to understand. I don't know, but it sounds fishy to me. What else is he hiding? Let's just cross-examine him and see what we can find out. Now then, Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, please.
Hold it!
I've already heard all about that part. Don't you have any new info? Well, let me see. If you have an hour or two, I could tell you all about the Hat 1 miracle.
Hold it!
We already know all about that too. Tell us about something related to this incident. I see. You want to know about incidents. Well then, let me tell you about the many incidents that made me the man I am today. Yes, if you have the time, I will tell you all about the upbringing of this great man. You've told us all about that already as well. What we need now is your testimony. Did I really already tell you all about my upbringing? I don't recall doing so. Director Cosmos, perhaps you could save your boastful tales for later. If I must. Well, we peeked in through the control room door.
Hold it!
It was so dark you couldn't see this figure's face, isn't that right? Yes, the room is as deep and dark as outer space itself. Speaking of outer space, during the Hat 1 if it's about that Hat 1 miracle again, you can sod off and tell it to a stray mutt. Aha, excellent idea. No reason why the animal world shouldn't hear of my greatness. And so they shall. But first, your testimony. What happened next?
Hold it!
So in other words, you were fired at while you were at the control room door. Something not quite right about that. Yeah, mostly the fact that there's no window on the control room door. Cosmos, the bullet this person fired hit you, isn't that right? It was a miracle befitting a great history-making history. Yeah. So we're on the control. Yeah, that's true. If he was in the control room, it wouldn't have been able to ricochet that around the wall. Yeah, about that diagram.
Objection!
Okay, never mind.
Objection!
Okay, yeah, the ricochet is the issue. You're telling this great court a glorious lie. Great man like me tell a lie? Have you ever heard of such a thing in all of history? The accusation is based on the positions of the people who are in the lounge. According to your testimony, you and Detective Arm were near the control room door, and the mystery figure was standing in the middle of the boarding lounge. So as you say, the figure fired a gun at you from this position, and the bullet would have traveled in this direction. However, we found the 10 caliber bullet here. Oh, it was the south... I thought it was the southeast, but I guess it was southwest. The trajectory and where the bullet was actually found contradict each other. Director Cosmos, who were you really when you were being shot at? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the human merry-go-round.
Objection!
Don't tell me you've forgotten already. Didn't the witness himself just tell you? The bullet hit his metal. Of this, there is no mistake.
Objection!
In that case, the bullet should have been found near the east side of the room. Trying to say that you can explain this inconsistency? Of course. I didn't think... What? Oh, great Director Cosmos. Is there something you'd like me to expound upon? You were in fact not in the control room to the east, were you? You were looking into the lounge from the door to the south, is that not right? What are you getting at? Use your own brain. Your head must have some use other than housing that bird's nest. Well, now hold on a second. We don't have a shot of that other door. Let's go and pick on my hair. Dr. Cosmos and the detective witnessed the scene from the southern door. The killer fired at them there, and that is why the bullet was found in the south. Makes some sense, actually. Also, the witness being at the southern door is rather favorable for the prosecution. Huh? You have a bad feeling about this. How about it, Director? If you don't tell the truth this time... Yikes. His handcuffs. You will become but rust upon my sword. I relish the chance to cut down a great man. Alright, tell the truth. Put your sword away. You are correct. I, the great Yuri Cosmos, was looking into the room from the southern door. It's the complete opposite of all the testimony he's given so far. Now you've lost your possibility that a third person was in the room. I have? Yeah, because the other two doors aren't accessible. The director and the detective were near the southern door, meaning the killer couldn't have escaped through there. The western door required print and recognition, the corridor beyond was filled with smoke. The only escape route left was the eastern control room door, and the only way to get through there was with Director Cosmos' fingerprints. Yeah... Okay. But again, there were no third person. Where's the gun? Oh, right. They assumed that he threw it in the trash. But wait. He couldn't have thrown it in the trash chute. Because if they entered from the southern door, they were now much closer to the trash chute than he was. The defendant, presumably. You were covering for the defendant, isn't that right? Yes, it was all for the love of my men. If I said I was in the eastern control room, it would mean that the culprit could have escaped through the southern door. It would have meant that there could have been a third person. All I wanted to do was protect Starbuck. I said I was in the control room to invent an escape route for a third person. What a convoluted lie. Was he really covering for the defendant? It looks like we've come to a conclusion. That the defense's argument, the possibility of a third person, has crumbled. It's over. Yikes. The judge is about to hand down his verdict. Think, Phoenix, think. This is the perfect time to try and turn my thinking around. If the third person had no way of escaping the scene, then what if one of the people at the scene was this third person? Wait, what if the whole premise is all wrong? Director Cosmos said that he and Detective Arm rushed to the scene together. But what if that premise isn't true? What if one of them reached the scene before the other one? And if that person entered the lounge, then they would be the third person. The defendant is the only one who could have killed the victim and shot at the director. There doesn't appear to be any room for argument against these claims. What about the fact that he can't get to the chute if they're right there?
Objection!
Please wait, Your Honor. There's still one possibility. This had better be good, Mr. Wright. There's one and only one person who could have escaped from the scene, and that person would be the first person who arrived on the scene. Then, upon entering the boarding lounge, the second person who arrived came via the southern door. That's why the first person fled from the room, using an escape route that was accessible only to them. Very well, let's hear more about this theory. Who is this one person who could have escaped from the boarding lounge? I mean, he is the only one that can operate the command room door.
Take that!
But that's... Mr. Wright, what are you claiming here? Of all the people who were at the scene, only the witness could have escaped. The director is the only one with the authority to open the control room door, after all. But that means... Exactly. The true identity of the third person is our current witness, Director Yuri Cosmos. What? What? Order in the court, I say. Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself in more detail. I assert that Director Cosmos arrived at the scene before Detective Arm, and entered the boarding lounge alone. Detective Arm arrived after that and saw a suspicious figure who was actually Director Cosmos standing in the lounge. And that's why she fired those 2 warning shots. I've been hit on the starboard side. Captain Wright, it's a direct hit on the enemy ship, sir. Magnificent shot. Warning shots fired from the enemy ship. Prepare to intercept. Cosmos, you've told a lie in this court once again. I've been hit on the port side. The enemy has called in reinforcements. Earth the Cosmos Control Center requesting permission asks that you return to reality. My ship will not go down to anything less than the ultimate weapon of evidence.
Objection!
But I do have evidence. In fact, you could say that your battleship bears its scar. Director Cosmos is the third person Aura Blackwell saw. This third person fired at Detective Arm and Director Cosmos with a gun. In return, the detective fired her warning shots. Deduced my miraculous tale of survival. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The mystery person fired upon us. Director Cosmos must have been the one who fired the 10 caliber gun. When Detective Arm discovered him in the lounge, it only makes sense that he would have turned and shot at her. Therefore, the evidence on the director's body is of a different kind of relevance than before. Once we compare it against another piece of evidence, the mark that you received from the third party will be all the proof we need to prove that you were the one there in the lounge. Brace for further impact. Comparison against this piece of evidence will prove that you were the one in the lounge. I guess presumably this one, because what we're saying is it's not the 10 caliber bullet that hit him, but the 38.
Take that!
But the scene didn't hit the oxygen tank, it hit Director Cosmos' metal. If you have that ricochet mark on the metal analyzed, I'm sure the caliber will match up. And if that mark proves to be from a 38 caliber bullet, it will prove that you are the third person we've been looking for. Bridge is destroyed, losing altitude, all hands abandon ship. That's true, then what about the bullet that hit the oxygen tank? It was the 10 caliber bullet. In other words, it was the bullet fired by Yuri Cosmos. Isn't that right, Director? No, you've got it all wrong. What? The engines have started again. It's a miracle. I'm not going down yet. Witness, stop this at once and confess the truth. If you don't want the history books to say that a great man was a great liar, then accept your fate and tell the truth. Are you giving me orders? Am I the great director of the Cosmos Space Center? Yeah, the cosmos revolves around me. Someone get me off this thing. Order in the court. Will someone please stop the witness from spinning? Phew, thank goodness we were able to stop him from spinning off the face of the earth. While he was twirling, I took the liberty of running an analysis on the mark on the metal. It's made by a 38 caliber bullet, matching it with the size of Detective Arm's firearm. Yeah. You ready to confess the truth, witness? No, you've got it all wrong. This is just a misunderstanding. Is he going to start piling on more lies? Looks like it. But no matter how many lies he tells, I'll just expose them one by one. I'll make that big liar tell the truth. Huh. This one is, going much more easily than expected so far. I have a bad feeling about it now. Director Cosmos, a new possibility is presented by the defense. They're claiming that you were this third person. Forgive me. I'm so sorry. The great pioneer of space development is revealed to be just another fabulous cur. Only one question for the likes of you. Shall I send you off quickly or very quickly? Damn it, you started him spinning again. Tell the truth. It's all just as you say, Mr. Wright. It's true that I was there in the boarding lounge. I got there before Detective Arm, and when she arrived, she fired warning shots at me. I was afraid people would mistake me for the killer, so I escaped to the control room. Then went past the elevators and all the way around to boarding lounge 1 again. I came up behind Detective Arm and pretended to be the second on the scene. What a troublesome old man you are, with such convoluted deeds and thoughts. I see. So then, are you still insisting that you did not kill the victim? Of course I am. When I arrived at the lounge alone, I saw the true killer. The great Yuri Cosmos was a history-making witness.
Hold it!
Now hold on just one moment. We just proved a few minutes ago that the third person that Mr. Starbuck and Ms. R. Blackwell saw was you. No, it wasn't me. I saw the person as well. If I were the killer, why would I lie to cover for Starbuck? I would just leave him to take the fall. That is an excellent point. All I wanted to do was protect Starbuck. Yeah. But if he was inventing an escape route for the third person, why didn't he just say this in the first place? some sense if he told those lies to cover Mr. Starbuck. Still, a lie's a lie, Athena, so Director Cosmos claims he's not the culprit, but where's the proof? Just remember, I have an alibi. Ms. Blackwell said that she saw the killer at 10 a.m., correct? Yes, and? Well, I was on the 4th floor helping with the evacuation effort. Ask any member of the staff you'd like, they'll corroborate me. The director is not fibbing to the court for once. I confirm that he has an alibi for the time specified. So, you're claiming that Ms. Blackwell saw the killer commit the crime first at 10 a.m., and that you arrived at the lounge after that. Yes, and I believe the person I saw is the same person that Ms. Blackwell saw, although it was pitch black, so it was more of a shadowy figure and less of a person. And I couldn't actually see their face, but it was definitely the silhouette of an Earthling. As long as he has an alibi, we can't very well claim Director Cosmos was the killer. Yeah. No, we can't. Then again, maybe we don't need to yet. I wonder if he was really covering for Mr. Starbuck. Your Honor, the defense moves to have the director testify about the person he saw. Thank you. Very well. Director Cosmos, your testimony, please. As I tried to enter the lounge, the true killer inside fired a gun at me. I had to avoid getting shot. But when I tried to get another look, they had vanished into thin air. I was near the elevator's side door and, well, the launch pad 1 door. And the control room door should have been shut tight to the killer. So you were shot at by the killer as well, and then they disappeared? Yes, though luckily no harm came to my glorious body. Unfortunately, the bullet hit Terran's oxygen tank. I know because I heard a pang. That must have been the sound of the tank being ruptured. Wait, but I thought the bullet hit his metal. And that was Detective Arm's bullet, remember? Right, what a mess this is turning into. So let's see. Director Cosmos is claiming that when he found Mr. Terran and his killer, the culprit shot a 10 caliber bullet at him. Right, but it actually hit Mr. Terran's oxygen tank. And how did it hit Mr. Terran's oxygen tank if it was fired in a completely opposite direction? Then the killer disappeared and the director went into the boarding lounge. When Detective Arm caught up and fired those warning shots at him. Judging by his medal, it looks like one of them almost took him out, too. Good summary, but that doesn't explain where our mystery killer went. Director Cosmos, I was wondering if you could elaborate on when the figure disappeared. I'm ashamed to admit I tried to hide myself when I was shot at, but when I peeked back into the lounge, the real killer was gone. I rushed into the lounge straight away to investigate. But what I found was Terran with a knife in his chest and Starbuck out cold on the floor. So we have a culprit who vanished from a scene that had no escape route. Vanished without a trace. It's truly like one of the great mysteries of the cosmos.
Silence!
I mean, we could still say that it was Starbuck, and he threw the gun in the trash chute. Middle of the ages indeed, but I'd rather know how a fibbing leech such as you can be lauded as great. The great man is always misunderstood in his own time, but he must remain true to himself even if those around him don't understand. Well, that may be the first true statement he said all day. But how do you suppose this person managed to vanish so suddenly? Simple, because it was Spaceboy himself. When he was spotted by the director and Aura, he quickly feigned unconsciousness. That would certainly take all the mystery out of the idea of a vanishing culprit. I want to raise an objection, but I don't have any counter-evidence. Director Cosmos, when you saw this person, did you also see Mr. Starbuck on the floor? No, because it was as dark as a black hole in there. I didn't see Starbuck until the other person vanished and I entered the room. That wasn't exactly helpful. I'm prepared to accept your surrender, right, Dono? I can't find any holes in this testimony, but I can't give up. Mr. Wright, why don't you let me help? Huh? While the director was giving his testimony, I detected a cacophony of discord. Which means he's hiding his true feelings from us, huh? This might help us find out what happened to our vanished killer. That'd be great, Athena. Let's see what you can do with him. You got it, boss. I wouldn't want to miss this chance to delve into a great mind. Yuri Cosmos, prepare to hand over the secrets of your heart to me. As I tried to enter the lounge, the true killer inside fired a gun at me. Okay, yeah. Very surprised, very upset, very sad, a little angry. I had to avoid getting shot. But when I tried to get another look, they had vanished into thin air. I was near the elevator side door. And, well, the Launchpad 1 door and the control room door should have been shut tight to the killer. Okay, well, the obvious... This is kind of weird. Like, why would he care if the Launchpad 1 door was closed? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be afraid of the Launchpad door. The great Yuri Cosmos, afraid? And what basis do you have for that outlandish accusation? Whether I have any basis or not, you seem quite distressed by it. I'm most certainly not. Director Cosmos, there's something about the Launchpad door you're not telling us, isn't there? And there he goes again. It's working, boss. One more punch and it'll be a knockout. There seems to be one more emotion that's at odds with his testimony. Go get him. Okay, back in the Matrix it is. Time to pinpoint our way to victory. That's not particularly surprising. That one's not particularly surprising. That one's kind of normal. How is this not surprising to him? He must have thought it was very strange that the killer vanished into thin air. I did. That kind of thing just doesn't happen usually. And yet, at that time, you barely registered any shock at the occurrence. What? Why are you... I can only think of one reason as to why you weren't surprised by the killer's vanishing act. You must have had a good idea where they went, isn't that right? That's preposterous. Only I can enter the control room, and the area beyond the Launchpad door is filled with smoke, making it impassable. As for the southern door, I was standing right there, so there was nowhere for the killer to run to. Maybe, or maybe not, he went into the room to check on Mr. Starbuck and Mr. Terran, yes? What if the culprit took that opportunity to silently slip out through the southern door? I highly doubt it. As you recall, right after I entered the lounge, Detective Arm came rushing towards it herself via the southern hallway. Anyone trying to escape through there would have been caught by her. And yet, the director wasn't surprised the killer vanished. So you're absolutely sure there was no escape route for the culprit to use? I'll just input those two pieces of data and... yes, just what I wanted to see. Presto changeo, less discord. Looks like we're on the right track. Thanks, Athena. Now to make sense of what we've learned. Director Cosmos wasn't surprised that the culprit suddenly vanished from the lounge, which points to the possibility that he knew where the killer had escaped to. Furthermore, talking about the door to the Launchpad made him uneasy. In other words, he's probably hiding something about the Launchpad 1 door. we put these two pieces together, only one solution to this puzzle comes to mind. Cosmos, so the real killer escaped through here.
Take that!
Culprit went through the launch pad 1 door to escape, didn't they? Yes, I mean, no. Disaster to starboard. We're going to crash into an asteroid. Master tactician, you are not. The area beyond that door was filled with smoke, wasn't it? True, but this is still the only logical answer there is. You know, something else I don't get. If this supposed third killer had a gun, why did he stab the guy? Why not just shoot him? That seems like it would have been way more efficient. You just figure out what the director is hiding about the Launchpad 1 door. You should be able to iron out the logical inconsistencies. But that door requires fingerprint recognition. Only Starbuck, Terran, and I have access. I don't see how the killer could have opened that security lock, do you? That's an easy one. The killer was right there in the boarding lounge, meaning there's a way he could have easily gotten past that security lock. Come to think of it, we did examine the prints in the fingerprint recognition device. I propose the killer used this person's fingerprints to get past the security lock. Well, it had to be one of these two guys. Oh wait, I think his prints were found on that, right? Mr. Starbuck was lying unconscious there in the boarding lounge. Anybody could have easily gotten past the security lock by using Mr. Starbuck's prints. And actually, Mr. Starbuck's prints are exactly what we found on the device's screen. Yeah, because why would he have used them to go back into the corridor? Looks like he does have something on it. Well, I guess maybe they thought originally thought he had used it earlier. You know, something just occurred to me. Would you like to hear it? Oh yes, by all means. There's a security camera in boarding lounge 1. Right, the one that recorded the victim and the defendant. What about it, Your Honor? If the true culprit escaped into the Launchpad 1 corridor, that might be recorded on the security footage. Has no one checked the rest of this footage? Hope you didn't strain your faculties too much for that, your baldness. I beg your pardon? Look, if we play the security footage beyond this point... Oh, right. There's a blackout. The footage cuts off. The camera was running on backup power, but apparently the power cables were damaged. Most likely by the after effects of the explosion. There's no footage after this, be it of criminals or space aliens. And I thought it was such a good idea, too. Just because your grandchild is watching from the gallery, it doesn't mean you should try to show off too much. Grandpa Baldness. Prosecutor Blackwell, how did you know about my grandchild? I think his grandchild just learned a little about the harshness of the adult world. Setting aside the issue of grandchildren, I'd like to have the witness continue. Director Cosmos, could you tell us more about when you entered the lounge? If I must. I had to avoid getting shot. After the killer vanished, I went into the lounge. And that's when Detective Arm appeared from the elevator side door. And then the detective shot at me. So you see, the killer could have only escaped to the launch pad, right? Wait a minute. Why was he so... Okay, this part makes sense. This part makes sense, because I would feel all of those things if someone shot at me. Why is he surprised that she showed up? Because shouldn't she have been right behind him? Shouldn't that have been expected?
Got it.
Director Cosmos, why were you so surprised when Detective Arm found you, and again when she fired? Well, I mean, I feel like when she fired wasn't all that surprised. Like, shouldn't have been all that. He should have been surprised by that part. Isn't it a bit unnatural? Sadly, even great men such as myself have ordinary human feelings. Our bodies are bound by the forces of gravity and emotions. Even a great man such as myself experiences surprise on occasion. Okay, but that... I'm sure you do, but my real point is not the fact that you were surprised, but rather what you're surprised by. Pardon me? First, you were surprised when Detective Arm found you in the lounge. And just after that, you were of course again surprised when she shot at you. But considering what you were surprised about, a strange phenomenon occurs here. Director Cosmos, what is strange about your surprised reaction is the fact that you were... Oh, was he more surprised when she came than when she started firing? Sure, you were surprised when Detective Arm shot at you, but the surprise you felt when she found you at the lounge was much greater. The fact that you were more surprised by simply being found than by being shot at suggests to me that you were conflicted about whatever it was you were doing there. The enemy has acquired a new weapon. Commence operation hide under your desk. Or spin in place a lot. Just tell me I finally sunk his battleship. Boss, I'm getting less Discord now. That must mean he really is hiding something about that launchpad door. Whatever he's hiding most likely has something to do with the killer's escape. I wonder what it could be. If he was doing something suspicious around that door, maybe we can spot some change between before he came to the room and after. Detective Fulbright gave us a photo taken after the crime. Let's run a comparison. See, this is footage of the door before Director Cosmos arrived. Oh, the... Huh. That thing was turned. Hey, look at that. There is a change. Something's definitely different. Director Cosmos. What is it? What have you two been up to over there? Finding the answer to what you were doing when Detective Arm found you, that's what. And that answer lies clearly in this footage. All you have to do is compare it to the photos taken during the investigation. Don't be ridiculous. If you really do have an answer, you pointed it out already. He's asking for it. This is what changed.
Take that!
The answer is this knob. Ah, that's... Your Honor, please take a look at this footage. Let's see. Take a look at the knob next to the launchpad door. As you can see, it's horizontal. Yes, it is, isn't it? However, when we investigated the scene of the crime yesterday, the knob was vertical. What does that mean? It means that sometime between before the director arrived and after, someone turned this knob. Okay, but what does this knob do? You're the only one who could have turned the knob. Come on now, Director Cosmos. Let's hear what you have to say. What were you trying to do by turning that knob by the door? Yeah, fine, I admit it. You're right, I did turn that knob. That knob is a safety lock meant to keep the launch pad in place. I was afraid there would be more explosions, so I wanted to move the launch pad away. You wanted to do what? Hey, didn't Ponko tell us something about how they prepare for launch? Said that once the launch pad's fully assembled, it's moved to the launch site. The safety lock in the boarding lounge has to be disengaged first. I guess that clears up what that knob is, huh? Oh, so if the killer escaped into the Launchpad 1 corridor, maybe they were transported along with the launch pad to the launch site. I don't think so. The launch pad 1 corridor was filled with smoke. I don't think they could have escaped through that corridor. Well, hold on. If they got into that corridor, but then it, like, retracted, then he could have gotten outside, potentially. Although, that's a 30-foot drop, so maybe not. Where did the killer escape to? I guess there are still some things we have to uncover. Director Cosmos, I request that you tell us about moving the launch pad in more detail. Fine. Listen carefully, for I'm about to give history making yeah. I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. Oh, I was happy about that. I feared there might be more explosions, so I had to cut the launch pad loose. Certainly, the only escape the killer had was through launch pad 1. But that area was a sea of smoke. Confound it, where on earth could they have gone? I mean, this one seems...
Got it!
This one seems to be the problem. I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. Make it sound like you were reluctant to do so. And yet, when you did it, you felt some joy, as if you were very pleased with yourself. How do you do it? How do you know everything as if you were there? Pretty impressive, isn't it? This is the power of analytical psychology. So, care to explain why you felt joy when you disengaged the safety lock? When I think back on the facts we've discovered up to this point, I have to believe that you were trying to fulfill some hidden agenda. How do you know about that, too? Because I'm more or less a pro, and you have this crazy powerful emotion analyzing sensor that Athena is using. You have no proof that I had a hidden agenda. Even if I did, I would never ever tell you, so there. I know they say people regress as they grow older, but you, sir, take the cake. And how could you doubt a man with such great intensity, intelligence, and integrity?
Silence!
You, a man of integrity? Don't make me laugh. Prosecutor Blackwell? What came over him all of a sudden? I mean, he's mostly just been staying out of this. I'm kind of surprised he didn't jump in earlier, but sure. You've spouted nothing but falsity since you stepped up to the stand. You're not the kind of man that will be glorified in the annals of history. Not for greatness, anyway. Unless you consider greatest barefaced liar an honor. Liar? Ugh, his words bite harder than his blade. You moved launch pad 1 after the explosions? My, how naive you are. You fail to realize how even the facts themselves have betrayed you. You know, just a thought, but modern English can be your friend. And here's a thought for you. Immediately following the bombing, Launchpad 1 was in the boarding lounge one side. The police confirmed this on scene. Oh. Huh. So that means the director didn't move the launch pad? Curse my judgment for calling history's greatest liar to the witness stand. Let us leave him to indulge in his lies and war games to his heart's content. Liar?
Objection!
I mean, it doesn't make sense. You can't deny that someone turned that knob. And once the safety lock was released, I'm sure the pad must have went somewhere. If we chase down the truth of this issue, we just might find where the killer escaped to. You're sure it must have went somewhere? We just might find out? Your arguments are nothing but conjecture, bluffing, and wishful thinking. Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is. Or are you not man enough to, boy? Yeah. Talk about hitting below the belt. Youngins these days. I don't understand it. I'm sure Director Cosmos must have moved the launch pad. The knob was definitely turned after he came to the lounge. But the launch pad is right where it's supposed to be. Wait a minute. Maybe I have it all backwards. What if the director turned the knob not to move the launch pad away, but to bring it back to where it was supposed to be? What? Hold on. That can't be right. What are you blathering about? What if the launch pad was at the launch site before the incident, and then after the incident, Director Cosmos moved it back to its usual spot? All he had to do was turn the knob to call the launch pad back, and it would be right where the police found it. Okay, but if that's the case, then how did those two get back into the lounge? Oh man, even Blackwell is sighing now. You made him sigh like Mr. Starbuck. I said really that off base? Pains me to have to explain how wrong your own logic is to you, however. Our great liar turned the knob only after he discovered the crime scene. Indeed, the pad existed beyond the lounge when our Astro Wonders made their escape. A fact that has been recorded for posterity on filmless film. Alright. So to reiterate, stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is, boy. Take grip, Mr. Wright, and focus. We know the launch pad must have been moved, but our deductions and the actual facts of the case are in direct contradiction with each other. Well, maybe the two astronauts never actually boarded the rocket. This footage could be fake, taken with body doubles after the incident or something. Well, I don't think it's that. On second thought, that's too far-fetched even for me. Never actually boarded the rocket. If they never actually boarded it, that would explain how he got down the ladder carrying the guy. Other than just... Hey, wait a minute. Maybe, just maybe... Prosecutor Blackwell, what if I told you the two astronauts never set foot inside the launch pad area, but instead went into another place? And what if when the director moved launch pad 1 back, it was not from the launch site, but from another place? What would you... Isn't there like a copy of the rocket in the museum? And isn't it capable of shifting around? Cut the existential bull or I'll cut you. Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself at once. I know I'm right. It was all the other way around from the beginning. Very well, Your Honor. Let me explain. Director Cosmos' reason for moving Launchpad 1 was... to switch it with another place? He wanted to switch it with some other place. I'm sorry, but did you say switch it? What could he possibly have switched the Launchpad with? Oh, you'd be surprised, Your Honor. All it takes is a little thinking outside the box, and the answer becomes clear as day. This is what was switched with Launchpad 1. I mean...
Take that!
What does that mean? The Space Museum? In the past, the Space Museum used to be Launchpad 2. Right. All the same features as Launchpad 1 can even be moved to the launch site. Meaning the Space Museum and Launchpad 1 can also be switched with each other. You can't mean... The rocket the astronauts boarded was not the one in Launchpad 1. It was the one in the space... What? Wouldn't they have noticed that it was a museum? Also, if the museum was the one that blew up, how is everything not on fire? I am now confused. Balderdash. And yet, it's the only explanation that accounts for every riddle and inconsistency. This is how the Space Center was just before the incident. I see Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum have already switched places. That's right. And with the two switched like this, the astronauts entered the Space Museum from boarding lounge 1. This allowed the true killer to enter Launchpad 1 from... What the heck? The true killer to enter Launchpad 1 from boarding lounge 2 and set the bomb on the rocket. Come to think of it, the door to the Space Museum from boarding lounge 2... Space Museum is open to the public every day of the year from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Exactly. Anyone can pass through the door to the Space Museum. There's no fingerprint recognition system on that door. In other words, with the two launch pads switched like that, someone other than Mr. Starbuck could have easily planted that bomb. After setting the bomb on the rocket, the culprit snuck into boarding lounge 1 and waited there, concealed. In order to kill Mr. Terran when the two astronauts emerged from the Space Museum. But wait! Recall that Mrs. Blackwell, Starbuck, and the director all saw a suspicious figure, who, we can suppose, after killing Mr. Terran, made their escape into the Space Museum. After that, Director Cosmos switched the launch pads back, without realizing the killer was inside the Space Museum. The killer then left the Space Museum and made a clean getaway. Right, Dono, I see you know how to handle a sword and handle it well. Perhaps I should call you Swordmaster Bluff. I'm a seasoned warrior who has cut down many a prostitute.
Silence!
But unless you can prove your theory, it's no better than a rusty sword. That's right, you have no proof I switched the launch pads. Somebody needs a better anger management counselor. If launch pads really were switched, there might be a record of it somewhere. At this point, Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum were switched with each other, so the corridor beyond the door should be the one that belongs to the Space Museum. Yeah, but all we can see there is the little conveyor belt, and I think that's in both of them. This is an image of the Launchpad 1 cord. Yeah, it's got that little conveyor belt there. You see anything different when we compare it to the security footage? Huh? That number on the floor? Well, what do you know? It looks like we have proof after all, Prosecutor Blackwell. This is just another bluff. Wait, hold on. Oh my god. It's right there behind the... I didn't see the two there. It was there the whole time. Oh, don't worry. It's all right here. Right in this footage. Proof that beyond this door is the corridor of the Space Museum. Very well then. Answer this for me if you would. What in this footage proves that the corridor... Wow, I can't believe I didn't see that. This the whole time.
Take that!
There's a 1 on the floor above the Launchpad 1 corridor. But take a look at the floor of the corridor in the security footage. See the number on the floor behind the astronauts? It doesn't look like a 1, does it? It's because what you see is actually part of a 2. Why is it a 2 and not a 1? It's because the corridor you see is the one to the Space Museum. Oh man. And so that means the corridor in this footage was not filled with smoke. Yeah, but then why did they come back out of it? If it wasn't filled with smoke, what were they running from? And why was one of them unconscious? This still doesn't make sense. The explosion didn't occur in the Space Museum. The explosion occurred in Launchpad 1 on the side opposite the Space Museum. Now that we know that the two astronauts escaped from the Space Museum, the mystery from the previous trial of how they got down the ladder is cleared up. Mr. Terran carrying Mr. Starbuck simply took the elevator from the upper level down to the middle level. Just incredible, the two launch pads were actually switched. But you'd think someone would have noticed an event of this magnitude. Everyone's down in the basement shelter when the launch pads were swapped back. There's no way anyone could have known what was happening on the surface. Yeah, but I mean... Okay. If the killer somehow switched these two areas, how did the two... For one thing, how did the two astronauts notice that something was weird when they went into Launch Corridor 1 and it turned out to be the Space Museum? 2, if there was no explosion, why was he unconscious and Clay was having to carry him around? And I don't remember what I was going to say about... I had an idea for number 3 and now I don't remember it anymore. No more lies, Director Cosmos. It's high time you told us the truth. My honor, my glory, everything is slipping away. Time to deploy my ultimate weapon. Galactic engine, ignition! What? It's gone haywire. What's that? Okay. That way. Yeah. Did he just flee the courtroom? Bailiff, on your steed, and after that witness. The bailiff have a horse? I see we managed to retrieve you before you came to any bodily harm. Director Cosmos, do you admit you switched the launch pads? I admit it's true. I switched launch pad 1 for the Space Museum. It's good to hear words I can believe for a change. Before you do, Your Honor, 2 things. First, we don't know if Mr. Terran had prior knowledge of the switch. As for Mr. Starbuck, he was unaware of his surroundings thanks to his medication. Either way, Mr. Terran would have realized the instant he stepped into the Space Museum that it had been switched with Launchpad 1. So my first question is, if the Space Museum was perfectly fine, why did Mr. Terran feel the need to put on such a dramatic display? Yeah, like, where did he get the samples from? Because the sample thing shouldn't have been in the museum, it should have been, like, going out to be launched or being brought back. I'm not 100% sure on that one. As for my second question, I'd like Director Cosmos to tell us why he switched the 2 launch pads to begin with. Please, I can't. I exercise my right to remain silent. But I will say, my hands were tied. I was only doing what I could to keep my men from getting caught in that blast. Director is terrified. He must have one heck of a reason for not wanting to explain why. I mean... Huh. Probably not a good time to try to pry it out of him, huh? Excuse me, but would you mind if I picked up my stars? Not my badge of rank. I'm nothing. I don't see why not. Bailiff, help the director retrieve his stars. It appears the possibility of the culprit other than the defendant has presented itself. Mr. Starbuck, is there anything you wish to say? I don't get it. Don't get it? What don't you get? Director, why did you do all that? In the very beginning, you never meant for the launch to go ahead, did you? You tricked us. Mr. Starbuck. Starbuck, my boy, I'm sorry. I can't tell you the reason why. But I had to do it to protect the Space Center. Director, will I ever get the chance to go into space again? Yes, of course. I won't rest until it happens. I will get you into space again, my boy. And the dream is still alive.
Silence!
You're not going into space, Starbuck. Prison. I won't have it any other way. Why are you so hung up on him? Yes, I accept that the launch pads really were switched. And if there were a third person at the scene, I suppose they could have escaped. I have yet to see proof of this third person's escape via the Space Museum. Oh, well, that's a good point. He's right, I don't have any proof. Starbuck, you will spill everything you know. What? Me? Ah. Where did you get those bombs? Tell me now. If you don't, my blade shall feast on your blood. Yeah. If I'm going to die, I want to die in space. I have to do something. Solomon Starbuck. Prepare yourself. Yeah. Now, you know violence isn't the answer, Professor Blackwell. It's him. Knowingly cheerful laugh. Could be none other than... Champion of Righteousness, Bobby Fulbright, here. In justice we trust. Detective Fulbright? Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Lawyer. I hope I'm not too late. I don't believe we had an appointment. I tried to hurry, but I ended up helping a little old lady cross the street. And then I had to break up a cat fight. Tell you, justice sure is his full-time job. Is it a fight between cats, or... Why are you here again? Because the defendant isn't the culprit, and I came to make sure that justice is served. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Fulbright, I always thought you were a bit touched in the head. But have you finally succumbed? Nope, it looks like you've succumbed to this phantom of yours. Open your eyes and let the evidence of justice uncloud your judgment. What evidence? Come to think of it, he did say something about finding us some evidence. Thanks, you two. I feel a lot better now that I've been able to get that off my chest. I'm going to work extra hard to find that perfect piece of evidence for you. I didn't think he was serious, though. So what is it, Detective? Is it something that will prove Mr. Starbuck innocent? It is, indeed. Have a look at this. Oh, it's the lighter. That's right, a lighter thought to have been used by the culprit, no less. The Space Museum's cleaning robot picked it up. It has the victim Clay Terran's blood, along with his killer's fingerprints on it. What? Wow, Fulbright just comes in and solves the case for everyone. Order. Detective Fulbright, can I assume that the fingerprints don't belong to the defendant? You bet. Mr. Starbuck is totally innocent. This is it. This is just what I needed. Huh. Your Honor, this is decisive evidence that supports the defense's earlier claim. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. With pleasure, Your Honor. Recall where this lighter was found. Based on that, we can extrapolate that after the killer murdered Mr. Terran, they escaped with the lighter in hand into the Space Museum. where they dropped it. Switching of the two launch pads occurred. Then finally, the killer left through boarding lounge 2 and made their escape. Meanwhile, Mr. Starbuck was found in boarding lounge 1 after the murder, a fact that Director Cosmos has testified to. Therefore, Mr. Starbuck couldn't have possibly been the one to drop the lighter there.
Silence.
But the defendant had free reign of the era until Director Cosmos appeared. Could he not have dropped the lighter in the Space Museum during that span of time?
Objection!
You'd like that to be true, wouldn't you? Director Cosmos testified that right after he saw the mysterious figure with a lighter, he went into the lounge and found the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. In other words, Mr. Starbuck would have had the time to double back to the museum. No, Prosecutor Blackwell, this lighter could only have been dropped by the real killer. Most importantly, Mr. Starbuck's fingerprints were nowhere to be found on this lighter. I think you understand what this means, don't you? This piece of evidence unequivocally proves that Mr. Starbuck wasn't the culprit. This does indeed appear to be decisive evidence that proves the defense's claims. As to the remote switch that was found in Mr. Starbuck's pocket, we can assume it was planted by the killer or the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. No, there must be some mistake. Frankly, Prosecutor Blackwell, I've been worried about you. You've been chasing this phantom for 7 whole years. I understand your urgency because tomorrow...
Silence.
Fulbright, you promised never to speak of that. Huh? Tomorrow? What about tomorrow? Given the body of evidence, I think it's safe to say the defendant is innocent, in light of the fact that it was impossible for him to have committed the crime. A few unanswered questions remain, so I look forward to seeing what you two uncover. But for now, this court finds the defendant, Solomon Starbuck... Wow, really? Yes, we did it, Mr. Wright. Looks like we pulled it off somehow, huh? With some help from Detective Fulbright. Mr. Wright, Miss Sykes, thank you. And please thank Apollo for me, too. You all are the best. Ooh, I wish we could tell Apollo about Mr. Starbuck's verdict right now. Yeah, me too. That's going to have to wait. Now that a verdict has been reached, I'd like to bring today's trial to a close. Court is adjourned.
Objection!
I was wondering when that was going to happen. It's too late to object, isn't it? It simply isn't possible. Something's wrong. Prosecutor Blackwell, are you dissatisfied with the verdict? Fulbright, what were the results of the fingerprint analysis for the lighter? Huh? The results? Well, I was in a hurry, you see, and then there was that cat fight, and, well... I kinda got carried away when I heard the prints weren't Mr. Starbuck's, so... You have yet to read it? Prosecutor Blackwell, can you read out who the prints belong to? Upon thorough analysis, the fingerprints were found to belong to Athena Sykes? What? So says the report. Huh? Me? Order, I say, order! Miss Sykes, tell me you have an explanation for this. We just finished proving that this lighter could only belong to the killer, so finding your prints on it can only lead us to one grave conclusion. I don't know how they got on there, but I know I'm not the culprit. This can't be happening. We built up our argument piece by piece, and I don't think any of our reasoning was faulty. So how could it have led to this? God, what have I done? Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Order, order. Detective Fulbright, stop your crying. What in the world is happening here? It's like the world's gone mad. Order, order. I will have order. I mean, surely she has an alibi. Like... well, we don't actually know what was happening with them on the morning that this happened. Despite another chaos, after all we'd fought for, the truth had turned cruelly on us to accuse Athena of the crimes. Somewhere, somehow, everything had gone terribly wrong. We had stumbled over the edge of reason and into the jaws of a twisted darkness. Oh, and that's just the end of the case. Wow. Turnabout for tomorrow. Well, it looks like this is gonna have to be wrapped up in the 5th episode. This is, It's kind of funny because this is basically been one incident that has taken, well, presumably the next one, which I think is the last one, is going to be about what happens here. So basically, this one incident will cover 3 different trials. That's pretty crazy. But this is, I mean, I guess she doesn't have an alibi? And really, without any other form of that's literally the only form of identification we have of this third party. Because other than that one point, there's really nothing identifying them. Oh man, that lighter turned out to be a double-edged sword. Huh. I don't know. I might have to think on this one some more. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I am going to call it here for tonight. It's getting a little late. But yeah, might do a stream tomorrow. We'll see. Probably start around the same time as usual. Yeah, the same time as usual. Or if I'm really not busy tomorrow, I might be able to do like some more in the after to start earlier. But we'll see what happens. Either way, I hope you've enjoyed this. It's certainly been an interesting twist in the tale. Yeah, and I hope you have a good evening, and I'll catch you next time.